Alright, working on exercise 8.2 of Murach's Visual Basic, which is using a rectangular array, and I've already opened the start files for 8.2. 8.2 is a quick one, only 5 steps really, and step 1 is opening it and step 5 is testing it, so we really are given only 3 steps to work with here. So let's get to it. The first thing, step 2, says I need a module level variable for a row index and a rectangular array of strings that provide for 10 rows and 4 columns. Holy cow. Okay, so I need my row index, which is an integer because it's an index, it's a pointer. And then I need this rectangular array of strings. So I'm going to say this is going to hold our calculations. And the book tells us it needs to hold 10 rows and 4 columns, which means my upper bounds in here are 9 and 3. It's just one less because we started at 0, 0. And when we declare this variable, we need to say what type of information we're putting in here, and inside the calculations we're going to hold a bunch of strings. Step 3, add code that stores the values for each calculation in the next row of the array when the user clicks the calculate button. So right here, what I'm going to do is say calculations of, so my row is the row index and my column is 0 for this first one, and I'm going to store the investment per month as a currency. So I'm going to say format currency, and what I'm storing is the monthly investment. So after monthly investment, we store the rate, the years, and the future value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control D, as in duplicate, 3 times. And then I'm going to take this and make it 1, 2, 3. This is going to be format percent because we're storing here the yearly interest rate. The next one is years. And years is just an int, so I'm just going to do years to string. And remember, that's actually a method. It just has no arguments, so the parentheses are optional. And finally, we are storing the future value. And then I'm going to take row index and plus equals 1. I'm going to increment that 1. So the first time this runs, in position 0, 0, we store the monthly investment. In position 0, 1, we store the yearly interest rate. In 0, 2, we store the number of years. In 0, 3, we store the future value. Then we increment our row index. So when it runs the next time, we're at 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, increment it again, etc., etc. That was, oops, I didn't label this one. That was step 3. So we have step 2 and step 3 done. And now, when the user clicks the exit button, and there's all this code here and everything. If you double click on the form, bring up the designer, double click on the exit button, it'll take you to the event handler for clicking the exit button. And before we close the form, I'm going to put in step 4. Which is display the elements in the array in a message box when the user clicks the exit button. And we need to format it to make it look nice. Alright, so I'm going to start with my message, and my message is actually, it's not going to start empty. The first thing we're going to store is investment per month, and VB tab, and rate, and VB tab, and years, and VB tab, and future value. Oops. And VB new line. And then here I'm going to do a loop. We'll get to that in a second. And then I'm going to do messagebox.show. I'm showing my message, and I'm going to call this thing future values. So this should be pretty straightforward right now. I have my message, which is a string. It starts with these headers. I'm going to do this loop, which I'm going to write next, and then I'm going to show my message in a message box, and the name of the box is future values. Actually, according to the book, it's future value calculations. All right, so this dual loop is I don't know, a little more advanced than a normal loop because we're working with a multi-dimensional array or a rectangular array. So let's do a code pattern or a snippet, code pattern, loops, and I want a for next loop. And I'm going to start with I as integer equals 0, 2, and we're going to go to, what do we call this? Again, calculations dot get length 0, and then we have to go to that minus 1. So this is going to give us each row. All right, and then in here I'm basically going to do the same thing. So I'm going to take this loop, I'm going to copy it and just paste it in the middle or inside, and I'm going to go from, for j as an integer, of calculations get length 1 minus 1, and these are my columns. So one of the things that I've seen students do is, instead of writing this inner loop, they know that there's 4 columns, so they just they hard code that. Don't hard code that, please. Let's do it the proper way with nested loops like this. All right, and now we're going to do my message ampersand equals. So this is adding on to my message calculations ij and VB tab. So it's going to loop through the rows. For each row, it's going to loop through the columns. So we're getting each of those individual values that we stored previously, and we're going to add it onto my message with a tab. At the end of every row, we're going to do my message ampersand equals VB new line. So at the end of every row, we go on to the next line of my message, which is a big string. And then we already had this before, we show it. So let's give it a shot. So my monthly investment is 100, yearly interest rate's 12, number of years is 1. There you go. Now if my monthly investment, if I make it 105, now it's that much money. What if I get, instead of 12, we get 12.5%? It goes up a little bit. What if we do 2 years? All right, so we have all these different future values. When I hit exit, it loops through and it shows me the monthly investment, the rate. Oh, we got a problem there. We'll come back and fix that. The years and the future value. Okay, so my rate got saved a little bit too big here. So let me just scroll up. When I store my yearly interest rate, I'm going to take that and divide it by 100. Because we're formatting it as a percentage. So if you put 12 in there, it comes out at 1,200%. So we're going to take 12 divided by 100 and then format it as a percent until we get 12% back out. So 112.1, that's great. Hit exit. That looks better. So our monthly investment is 112.1. I would say the only thing I don't like about this is that, see how this box is kind of big? There's all this white space here. That's because it's actually putting in 10 rows, but these rows are all empty. So let's just make it a little bit better. Let's come down here to where we're building our message, and right off the bat I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say if calculations I comma 3, which is the future value, is equal to nothing, then continue for. So we're going to just, if the row that we're on, that's the row we're looping through, position the fourth column, which is the third index. If it's an empty string, because remember our rectangular array is holding strings, then continue for will continue this for loop. You can see it's highlighted here, and it'll move on to the next row. And this way, when I run it, if I only run it with one value, now I hit exit. Yeah, there we go. See, I got rid of all that extra white space there, and this just makes it look a little bit nicer. All right. So that little last bit, doesn't mention it in the exercise, but if you look at the example on page 280, you can see they don't have all those extra blank lines in here. So believe it or not, they actually do have this in the solution. And that's it. That was exercise 8.2.